Hi, Dr. Warren. Glad you could make it.
Hi.
This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to the Respiratory Care Advisory Council. The time is 2:06 p.m. on December the 8th, and we're pleased to be holding this council virtually. At this time, we will be taking attendance. Dr. Kakarala, Dr. Warren,
Here, present.
Amy Rodenhausen,
Here.
Sonia Keller, she's here for the record, I see her. Karen May,
Here.
Robert Pelfrey,
Here.
and Cindy Groeninger. The minutes from the September 20th meeting have been sent to you in advance for review. I'm hoping everyone had a chance to look at those. Can I get a motion, unless there's some questions around that, to approve those minutes?
This is
So
Karen. I
moved.
make a motion to approve.
And could we get a, thank you, Karen, and could we get a second?
This is Amy. I'll
Second.
second.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And could we get a voice vote to approve?
I approve.
Approve. Aye.
Approved.
We'll now ask Chelsea Wansky, who is the board's legislative director, for a legislative and policy update.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to provide a legislative update. Over the past month, the legislative team has been working to monitor legislative activity on many bills as we make our way through the lame duck session. Our priority at this point are several bills impacting occupational licensing. Senate Bill 246 is an occupational licensing reciprocity bill. We have been working with the committee chair as well as the bill sponsor to address some of our concerns regarding the board's ability to make determinations on whether or not an applicant has adequately met Ohio's qualifications for licensure. As of last week, we had amendments that were adopted as part of the bill, which allow greater flexibility in making those determinations regarding an applicant's fitness to practice. We are proud to say that those amendments not only impact our board, but impact all boards. Senate Bill 364 would require Ohio to join the Interstate Medical Licensure Compact. We have been working with the bill sponsor on this legislation as well to make sure that she is aware of our concerns. And we are continuing to track this legislation as well as several pieces of federal legislation that could impact an interstate medical licensure compact. House Bill 263 is another occupational licensing bill that we continue to monitor. This bill would require that the board provide a comprehensive list of criminal offenses that would bar someone from becoming licensed in Ohio. Since the last board meeting, we have been working with several other healthcare boards to try to develop a solution to this language. Last week in the Senate Transportation, Commerce, and Workforce Committee, they held a third hearing, and we submitted testimony expressing our concerns and some suggestions that would help this language become a little more palatable for healthcare-related boards. That concludes the legislative update, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chelsea.
Thank you.
We're in the middle of lame duck because the General Assembly goes away at the end of this December, and then they start up again in January. So Chelsea is doing yeoman's work and trying to keep track of all these different bills, trying to make sure things don't get merged into other bills that we're not aware of. So thank you for all of that. We did have, Sierra, do you want to talk about the COARC documents that we received? Yeah.
Sure. So this will be pretty brief. We did send over the letters and some of the reports that we received from our institutions here in Ohio. Sonia was kind enough to walk us through the process and kind of help us understand how everything works. They do have the 2019 final report published on the website. Cuyahoga Community College was the only school with a retention below 70%. For this year, we do not have the total report yet. Hopefully we will be able to review that early next year. I know Sue with the Ohio Society for Respiratory Care will be probably touching on her workforce report again. I think our meeting is planned for February. So we can go over it at that time once, we have all those numbers in.
I also want to say thank you to Sonia, who's been walking us through some of this, and for Amy, who was helping us out today, figuring out some of the COAR stuff. It's relatively new to some of us, so we appreciate your guys' help with that. There was a House Bill 404 that was went through both of the houses of the legislature, the House and the Senate, and was signed by Governor DeWine on November 23rd. And the provisions related to the extension of the COVID-19 emergency, and they were effective immediately, which is allowing us actually to hold this meeting remotely as well today. The medical board licensees who have licenses that are set to expire during the period of emergency, which is March of this year, going forward now until April 1st of next year, have until July 1st of next year to renew their licenses. And this is something I think has already been sent to all of our licensees, and hopefully you have it as well. And if not, I'll make sure that we get it over to you. And as I said, the medical board can continue to have our hearings and our councils remotely until July of next year. As always, we have to give 24 hours notice of the meeting to the public and to the media who requested advance notice. We're still, although the license time period got extended for renewal, we still are encouraging people to go ahead and do the renewals during their regular time periods. It's so easy during all of this confusion and pandemic for people to forget to do it, and we certainly don't want anybody to lose their license by not getting it renewed. So any chance you get to spread the word that we're still encouraging, even though people have until July 1st, if they want to do it during their regular time period so that they don't forget and so we don't lose anyone and we're not having to chase them down, we would appreciate it. And as always, the expiration date and the renewing of all licenses and everything can be done on our website. So I know this is no surprise to any of you, and I've touched base a couple of times with Dr. Coccarella on this, that during this pandemic, and there's a current surge, obviously, and obviously the respiratory therapists are on the front line of all of this. We're keenly aware, the medical board is, of the stress that's being put on the respiratory therapist and others on the front line during this surge. Last week, I emailed a lot of the universities that do provide education for respiratory therapists, and I've touched base with Amy and Sonia and a lot of the different schools, asking everyone to please continue their efforts to make sure that they get anyone who's qualified, who is eligible to get a limited license to do so. We, our staff in the medical board has putting forth a concerted effort to expedite licenses, especially for the respiratory care folks. So if you hear of anyone who's having a hold up in getting their license, if there's something that we need to look at particularly on that, you can call me at any time, even on the weekends, and I will get a hold of our licensing area and see what we can do, with the bounds that we have. If someone's qualified, to get them, make sure they're getting their license and getting them out on the front lines. Well, we're talking about this, we've reached out to the schools, I've been making phone calls, but I wanted to check with you guys to see if there was anything that you could think of that the board could do during this surge to help the respiratory therapists out, either help them out from a licensing perspective or anything that we could do to get more boots on the field, I guess.
I think that's the $1 million question, and most of our hospitals, if we had the answer, it would be such a relief for a lot of our facilities. It's just very hard to get RTs in, especially with the increase in surge patients at most of these hospitals and the ongoing care that these patients need. It's just a tough circumstance that we're in right now.
It really is, and I know that the medical board. I know our hands are tied, unless it comes around licensing or run enforcement and things like that. But please keep in mind, if there's anything that we can do, reach out at any time, and we can be reached, 7 days a week. So if there's something that we could do to help, we'd be happy to do so.
I know many hospitals are hiring travelers, just to get them in, just to get some other warm bodies in the mix, because a lot of therapists are out either sick or many are retiring because of this, as you know.
I've heard that across a couple of licensing groups that, when we got into the pandemic, that a lot of people just got completely overwhelmed and decided it was a good time to retire. It just got to be too much. So I can completely understand that. I also want to let you know, I think we've sent to you the listing of the 2021 meetings. If not, we'll get those out to you. Because as fast as Christmas is coming, next year's coming that quick too. So I want to make sure everybody has it on their calendars, so we can make sure that we have a quorum to continue our meetings into the future. We also have a few members whose terms are going to expire next year, and we'll be reaching out to you guys as well to see if you're interested in being reappointed. So we'll do that. And then, is there anything else? I feel like this has been a short meeting, but is there anything else anybody wants to talk about while we're here today, or anything that you can think of that the board can do or that we need to do collectively as this council?
I have this is Dr. Cockrell. I have a question in regards to do we know what the average length of time is from the time someone applies for an RT license to the time they get one granted, assuming that there's no legal or behavioral issues?
What we've been told, Dr. Kakarala, is that if they send us an application and it's clean, it has everything that we need in it, because sometimes we get incomplete licenses.
Right.
We can get it out the door depending on how long it takes anybody who's not affiliated with the medical board. For example, when we do the background check, how long that takes. But we try to get it within 1 week. And sometimes if the background checks are not held up, it's between 1 to 3 days.
Oh, okay. So it's incredibly fast.
Yeah, it really is fast. Sometimes we get a little bit hung up, especially during the pandemic, on how long it may take to get the background check. But I can also say that if anyone has any concerns, if they call, then we can get our licensing department to see if they can't expedite something. For example, I worked with an instructor the other day who called me, who had a student who was waiting on a limited license and hadn't filled out an activity report. And so we weren't going to release the license till she had her activity report and it had her background information in it. So we were able to work with our licensing department, get that filled out, get it emailed, and within 2 days we got her license so we could get her, into a job. So in situations like that, you call me, then we'll contact the licensing area. But they really are pretty quick right now. And we've also asked them to go through and figure out how many RCP licenses are pending and to expedite those as well.
Okay. I know earlier during the pandemic, a few states had considered licensing out of state people that would be interested in working across their state border, and assuming they were in good standing and everything else. But in our case, it really you just need the application, because it sounds like in other states it may be labor intensive or time intensive. And that certainly doesn't seem the case for here. So that wouldn't, it sounds like that's really no barrier to, having someone enter the respiratory workforce in Ohio.
I don't think it is. Chelsea and Sierra and I have talked to quite a few states because of the legislation that was pending on having all of our doctors have us join for the doctors a interstate licensing compact. And when we talk to other states, I don't know if it's because we're larger, but our licensing is all automated. And a lot of the states are still doing it by paper. And it was taking, us joining that was not going to make our licensing any quicker. So that's a good place to be, especially during a pandemic.
Yeah, I think the board is doing a great job with expediting licensure. I think the biggest issue that we have is just the lack of bodies that will put the applications in. We're not competing with other hospitals right now. We're competing with other states for a limited amount of resources. And we also have seen early retirement based on this new pandemic too. So it confounds the problem. And if we don't have the bodies to put them in the spots, then we're left with a huge shortage.
Yeah, I think manpower may have been an issue before the pandemic started, and now with a pandemic, I think it's probably a really bad situation. But going forward, obviously, if you can think of anything that we can do to get you guys, if we need to get you guys back together again to discuss anything, if there's anything obviously the board could do, please reach out and let us know. I know this is something that's a huge concern for the administration, for the Department of Health, and for the medical board.
And if I know Jill and I have had this conversation, and I've stayed in touch with other individuals from the OSRC. Clearly, we had student recruitment issues before the pandemic started, and this sort of just really made it that much more challenging. Obviously, what we're doing now, and I'll share here in a moment what we're planning on doing, at least from our educational institution. It won't help now, but at least we're looking ahead for the next 2, 4, 6, 10 years, so that we can have students in the pipeline actually interested in respiratory care. The issue that we're seeing is still kind of the similar thing. It's a newer profession, so still a lot of prospective students who are interested in healthcare don't know what RTs do. So, I'm not sure what the state medical board can do from that perspective, other than at every opportunity that we have to share. Here's a different profession. We're kind of clumped in with nursing, and that's been kind of the typical thing. And so we need to really just get the word out that this is its own profession, and advertise that. Also, marketing and commercials. I know from our program when we did I know it's pricey. It was a pricey commercial that aired on the local networks. But after that happened 2.5 years ago, I believe it was, we noticed a big spike in our intro courses, which kind of demonstrates the interest in students coming into our program. I'm sure this is a challenge across all the programs. Amy, I'm looking at you because you're obviously also in an academic institution. So I suspect this is across the board, even nationally. Our goal right now is to try to create yet another video, at least here at Sinclair, try to get the social media and blast it out, talk about statistics, talk about what we do. If anyone has any connections to be able to broadcast this on networks without and I don't even know what the cost is, but I know that advertising is not cheap. I think that will be very, very helpful to us, so that we can start getting more students in the pipeline, and then 2, 4, 6, 8 years down the road, we can produce more RTs. Just getting the word out in marketing is key. We also talked about apprenticeships, I am not pronouncing that correctly, programs, so that hospitals can commit and promote within, and obviously create a pathway, a paid pathway for individuals who are already working at a hospital setting, perhaps in a very entry-level position. Hospitals investing in their own, and then supporting the student's journey throughout their program. So that's another pathway. It's a lot of that needs to be supported by the hospitals themselves. So just throwing some ideas and different things that we're doing here, and I'm sure everybody else is, to get more students enrolled and interested in respiratory care. But it really starts with talking about the profession. Who are we? Pandemic has kind of shown a little, or created, or what's the word I'm looking for? More people are aware of, you're the people operating ventilators. I guess that's kind of what we're known now for, because everybody knows how important that is. Whatever else we can do to market this profession, I think that will be helpful.
Amy, did you have anything you wanted to add from your perspective?
I agree with everything that Sonia said. Recruiting has definitely gotten very interesting and different as a result of the pandemic. I think we've experienced a little bit more awareness of what is an RT because of it. And we are admitting for our new class starting in January, and it doesn't seem that the pandemic has steered people away from respiratory therapy, which is good, because that definitely came up at meetings that we've had. Gosh, who's going to want to do respiratory therapy? So like Sonia said, anything we can do to get the word out, to get high schoolers, parents, anybody aware that, hey, this is an option. This is very needed. It's a viable career path, and they can be out and working and helping within a year, typically a year of starting their education. They can work right into that full-time position, and we're just an unknown gem, unfortunately. So we have to, anything we can do to get the word out. Now, hospital partnerships is a great idea with the, hospitals supporting their employees with tuition reimbursement, things like that. But yeah, we have to just be as creative as we can to get the word out.
I talked to a couple of schools, one being Columbus State, and they were talking about the fact that they're partnering with Children's Hospital, and I think they said Ohio Health, to try to get some of the patient techs in the hospital trained for respiratory therapy. And I thought that, and I had mentioned that to Sonia the other day. It sounds like a viable way to get a new career stream for people who could use a new career stream, plus to get some more people into a field where they're necessary. So maybe this is something I'm hoping that'll blossom next year, and something we can continue to talk about as we're moving forward.
Yeah, I think they trialed that on a lot of nurses. Patient care techs and nursing program is a proven program, so it'll definitely hold well for the RT program as well.
Maybe next year too, we can get a couple of them to join us to maybe talk through the programs and what kind of successes they're having going forward.
Yep.
Anybody else have anything they want to discuss before we get off here today?
Just one more thought on that. Potentially Jobs Ohio or, the Unemployment Bureau may be able to redirect some people who have been unemployed for a while that may be searching for another profession. Could be, some of the retail or restaurant folks who may not be reopening. Just a thought.
I actually got an email from Sue Cicerello today, who mentioned that she was having someone reach out to the Lieutenant Governor's office, because I think that's who Jobs Ohio falls under, to see if they could be any help with this. So I think that's a great idea. Well, hopefully we'll have some good news the next time we meet, which will be next year, which I think is March 9th. Is that right, Sierra? So hopefully we'll have vaccines by then, and they'll be getting out, and hopefully we'll have some more career paths for respiratory therapists. So that would be great news. Can I get a motion to adjourn unless anyone has anything else?
So moved.
And a second?
A second.
And can we get a voice vote?
Yep.
Approved.
Aye. Approved.
All right. Happy holidays, everyone. We'll talk next year. Please stay in touch with things that you need that we can do to help out. I look at my emails all the time, and we can be reached seven days a week, and I'll get a hold of somebody. I'll wake somebody up if you guys need anything. So let us know. All right. Happy holidays.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Dr. Tay, I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, thanks, Jeff.
This conference is no longer being recorded.